I love you too. Just because you're a woman. You know, wearing that hat and the apron was... We've got to catch up to the 21st century. We've got to raise our voices, do away with policies and politicians that belong to in a Mad Men episode.
Politicians always have certain groups and demographics they address and praise for votes. Thus, the address and praise are part of a political strategy. What does this strategy look like, and which effect is it intended to have on the audience? With one of Obama's speeches to and about women as a prime example, these are the questions this video will answer. Obama's speech is loaded with intermediation strategies and conversational discourses that are all aimed at one thing: garnering sympathy. In a world full of politicians who are trying to persuade us, it's important to be able to identify the tactics they use. What do you think about the speech? Let us know in the comments. He begins his speech with two intermediation strategies. One, he interacts with people in the crowd. In terms of branding, this move can make audience members feel that they're familiar with him, as if they were talking one-on-one. Familiarity is part of a politician's or celebrity's self-branding. Two, he mentions his family, which rhetorically adds a regular guy quality to his personality, that he's just like the people in the crowd. This kind of similarity is equally important in terms of self-branding. Let's watch.
I love you too. I am not going to be too long. I've got to get back and trick or treat tonight with Michelle. Although Malia and Sasha are a little old, and it's so sad. You know, I used to be able to, we'd dress them up, and we still have the pictures, and they'll resent them later, but at the time they were fine with it. They were so cute. A good thing about being president is we never run out of presidential M&Ms, and so we're going to be giving those out. You want some? Is that what you said?
As a politician, it's crucial to know your crowd, so he adjusts his word choice and the topics he chooses to emphasize to the demographic he's speaking to. Thus, a politician's word choice reflects how he or she views the crowd, what he or she thinks is going to be popular. For example, if he were speaking to a crowd of steel workers, it's less likely that he'd use a word like cute.
They were so cute.
In order for persuasion to work, it's important to get the crowd to smile and laugh first.
I mean, my first job was at Baskin-Robbins. And, you know, wearing that hat and the apron was... Yeah.
Next, he connects these intermediation strategies, characterized by clear and specific word choice, to the national ethos that's a standard part of political speeches, giving the impression of a sense of community across time and space. Unlike the intermediation, this appeal to national ethos is characterized by deliberately vague and generic language.
The people I really came to see is you. Because every decision I make, every single day, all the policies I pursue as president are all aimed at making sure we restore the promise of this country for your generation and for every generation that comes after.
The purpose of deliberately vague language is to get as many people as possible to recognize themselves in the speech and thus feel addressed and seen by him. That's why politicians prefer generic language, because it's when you start going into specifics and you start to define the terms you use that disagreement occurs. And we can't have that, because political speeches are designed to make the audience feel good, included, empowered, and similar platitudes. He uses the verb restore, which is a presupposition, as it presupposes that there is something to restore, and again, that he's the one people should choose to restore it. And speaking of generic language, next, notice the tremendous amounts of applause, even though what he says isn't actual argumentation. I'll get back to what I mean by that.
Over the past 6 months, our economy has grown at its fastest pace in more than 10 years. And in education, dropout rates are down. The national graduation rate is the highest on record. More young people are earning their college degrees than ever before. Good job, young people.
What he should be doing is provide causal connections between the positive developments and his policies. He doesn't. Instead, he's pointing to correlations, because his claims imply that these developments are results of his policies. His initial claim is that things are going great. The grounds are all of the areas he mentions. Grounds can become claims in new arguments. So to take an example, the ground that the economy is growing at its fastest pace in 10 years can be understood to be a claim in itself. Where are the grounds for that? Where's the causal connection? Again, the generic language is worth noting. What does it actually mean that it has grown at its fastest pace in 10 years? What part of the economy is he talking about? How does he define fast pace? Not to mention the facts that when it's going great in one area, it's often because money's been taken from another area. When one area is prioritized, it often means that other areas aren't prioritized. Sometimes it seems there's no end to the claims that audiences will applaud if they like the politician.
Andrew Scheer wants to scrap the first and only national climate plan Canada has ever had, and we will always do more to fight climate change.
All of this indicates that politicians know it's about using the right, nice-sounding words, because people remember the words that made them feel good, but they don't always remember the context in which the words occurred. Rhetoric matters. That's why being a spin doctor is a full-time profession. Repetition is a powerful rhetorical device. In his speeches, Obama repeats the deliberately vague words hope and change and progress, which is a presupposition, presupposing that there's been progress. The progress he didn't substantiate in detail.
There's almost no economic measure by which we haven't made substantial progress over this period of time. We're better off than we were. So, look, the progress has been hard. It's sometimes been challenging in particular states, but it's been steady and it's been real. All across the country, we're taking similar actions, community by community, to keep making progress.
So, considering that everything's so great, why is it that ordinary people, to use political jargon, don't quite see this progress? That's the eternal question, and politicians know it is. Even though all this progress should be self-evident, right? So they make sure to incorporate a little guy discourse in their speeches. This discourse is meant to portray them as being at eye level with ordinary people.
Now the thing is, though, what's also true is that millions of Americans don't yet feel the benefits of a growing economy where it matters most, and that's in their own lives. There's still a lot of folks who are working hard, but having trouble making ends meet.
Politicians know that this eye-level cliché is crucial, as people in general like to feel seen by authority figures.
There is so much more to do, and that's exactly what we're doing.
Can you see how that's cold comfort to a young person stuck in their parents' basement or in a basement apartment, and they can't get out of the apartment because if they do, then they're going to see their rent double.
Canada is the best positioned of any country around the world, but that's cold comfort to someone who can't pay for their rent or buy their groceries.
Yeah.
But we have a lot of reasons to be optimistic about the future.
And particularly, I want to zero in on the choices we need to make to ensure that women are full and equal participants in the economy.
Here he uses the word equal, which is popular because of its positive connotations. Because it's popular, some people have an almost instinctive positive reaction to it, and as we see, it works. This is the loudest applause yet. However, what he doesn't mention is the self-interest he has in this full and equal participation in the economy. The fact that taxing two incomes generates more money for the state than taxing one income. Often, financial interests are masked as concern, and the word equal is one of the best ways to persuade, because who wants inequality? Or better yet, who would want to promote inequality? So, by inference, if you're for his definition of the word equal, you're for equality. If not, well... Next, he continues with personal details, appealing to emotion, pathos, aimed at making him relatable.
I like men just fine. But Part of the reason that I want this focus is because I was raised by a single mom, and know what it was like for her to raise two kids and go to work at the same time and try to piece things together without a lot of support. And my grandmother, who never graduated from college but worked her way up.
Along with presenting policies preferably as vaguely as possible and tapping into shared values, personal details are a standard part of political advertising. Like Bill Clinton, Obama is skilled at making people feel seen and heard, mentioning everyday situations to make the audience relate. Notice how he starts with the words.
And they were sharing stories that probably sound familiar to a lot of people.
As we've seen time and time again, familiarity is exactly what he's going for. So with his word choice, he quote-unquote reveals his agenda.
So earlier today I met with a group of women business owners and working moms, and they were sharing stories that probably sound familiar to a lot of people. Studying for finals after working a full shift, searching for childcare when the babysitter cancels at the last minute.
Now that he's mentioned these scenarios, it's time for the ultimate similarity move, connecting people's situations to his own via the personal details he just mentioned. We're also blessed with new details.
And so I kept on hearing my own story. I kept on hearing about my mom struggling to put herself through school, or my grandmother, hitting that glass ceiling. And I thought about Michelle, and I told some stories about when Michelle and I were younger and getting started, and we were struggling to balance two careers while raising a family. And we would feel some of the guilt that so many people feel. We're working, we're thinking about the kids, we're wondering whether we're bad parents, we're wondering whether we're doing what we need to do on the job.
Obama knows when to make pauses to let the emotions he's conveying sink in.
Or my grandmother, hitting that glass ceiling.
However, what people should actually think to themselves is, why is he telling us this? Because what he says doesn't bring about solutions, and no one asked to hear it. That's how you identify many rhetorical tactics, when the speaker gives information that's so filled with pathos and appeals to a sense of community in form of the collective pronoun we, that many people forget that it's irrelevant. And not only irrelevant, but also oversimplified. Let's watch.
And then, of course, I think about my daughters. And the idea that my daughters wouldn't have the same opportunities as somebody's sons, well, that's unacceptable. That's not acceptable.
With equality of opportunity, he's tapping into a value that's so widely accepted that it doesn't make sense to say it, which is exactly why he's saying it, because political speeches are about image first and foremost. What idea is he talking about? Who has this idea? Who's the adversary? In speeches and interviews, politicians often create problems, making it look like there are problems, in order to come across as a savior who solves the problems. And also, what is it that's unacceptable specifically? That people choose the things they want to pursue and don't want to pursue on an individual basis and not as a group. Could it be the case that he wants this demographic to choose the opportunities he knows are going to give him and other politicians more of people's money between their hands?
America's highly educated workforce will be made up of more women than men. So I say all this because, to the men here, we all have a stake in choosing policies that help women succeed. Women make up about half of America's workforce.
And there we have it. It's about the extra money that two incomes will give. Is this extra money going to benefit each individual family? That's more than doubtful, because he just finished saying that he knows people aren't experiencing the benefits of the supposed progress, and because 6 in 10 women aged 16 or older already worked outside the home at the time of the speech. And by his own admission, women make up a significant part of the workforce.
At a time when women are the primary breadwinners in more households than ever.
With all of this in mind, the real question is, when will each individual family see the financial benefits of this progress? When it's 10 out of 10 women? Could the problem be the way that politicians are spending people's money and will continue to spend people's money, even if 10 out of 10 women are the primary breadwinners? At least, it's a relevant question to consider before accepting his encouragement to support his restoring policies. By the way, what are his policies? 12 minutes in his 26-minute speech, we finally get an idea.
Women deserve a day off to care for a sick child or sick parent without running into hardship.
That goes without saying, which is why he's saying it, because political speeches are about image first and foremost.
And we need to make sure that women get an honest day's pay for an honest day's work.
He's speaking collectively about women, so first he would have to prove that women as a group don't get an honest day's pay, but presuppositions are more convenient. Presuppositions keep the speaker from having to actually prove them. And not only prove them, but also prove them causally, and other boring, negative things like that.
And Rhode Island's got the right idea. You're one of just 3 states where paid family leave is the law of the land.
In the part of the world I'm from, people couldn't imagine a society without paid leave. Via schools, media, and political speeches, people here have come to think of it as essential. However, no matter if we think this policy is right or wrong, it still requires money, as all policies do. Money that's taken from other areas of society. Strangely enough, he doesn't talk about that. He talks about fair and unfair, what people deserve, which is very different from looking at what it all comes down to in the end, when there are no more positive terms to use: money.
We need better child care, daycare, early childhood education policies. You know,
when politicians are stating the obvious like this, without specific and tested plans, there's always a self-promotional intent behind it. In rhetorical analysis, it's called the nonsense factor. Who wouldn't agree with this? But again, where does the money come from to run these daycare centers? In speeches, politicians leave as many intermediate results out of the equation as possible. The nonsense factor occurs time and time again.
And if a woman is doing the same work as a man, she deserves to get paid just like the man does.
What's next? That the sky is blue. Oftentimes, what politicians say is so simple, self-evident, and ultimately self-glorifying that they use powerful intonation to hide it.
In this country, no matter who you are, what you look like, where you come from, whether you are male or you are female, here in America, you can make it if you try.
This performance reminds me of another powerful speech.
The world is changing fast, but our top priority will always remain building a better today and tomorrow for you and for your kids. This is the foundation of everything we do.
And sometimes someone, usually mom, leaves the workplace to stay home with the kids, which then leaves her earning a lower wage for the rest of her life as a result. And that's not a choice we want Americans to make.
He should have said that that's not the financial outcome he wants from Americans, because 2 incomes are needed to help finance the system he wants. Here, however, with the word choice, he disguises the financial interest as concern. The word choice has positive connotations, which is exactly why he monopolizes it. Who'd want to be on the opposite side of choice? What about what each family wants to spend their money on? What about people's right to choose, to use his word, what to prioritize in life?
So let's make this happen. By the end of this decade, let's enroll 6 million children in high-quality preschool, and let's make sure that we are making America stronger, and those kids will do better.
Again, Obama's going for words that people have a positive and empowered response to, such as high quality and stronger, so much so that many of the people in the crowd probably overlook the fact that he's presupposing a lot. For example, it would have to be made clear what the objective connection between preschool and making America stronger is. Stronger in what way and compared to what? And how much money would it take to make high-quality preschool? What areas should the money be taken from to realize this dream? We could ask questions like these all day. However, it can be summed up by the motto that all politicians appear to live by. Everyone likes to hear nice words. No one likes to hear details.
We've got to catch up to the 21st century. We need to pass a fair pay law, make our economy stronger.
That word stronger again. Of course, he doesn't use it intentionally at all. I wanted to play this clip because this is the classic time argument, which isn't an argument at all. Time and time again, people say and write, "Come on, it's the 21st century," or "Come on, it's 2023. A time or a year can't do anything in itself. People define the time and year they live in. So just because it's 2023, it doesn't follow that we should have certain policies."
It will be good for America, and it'll be good for all families, and good for our kids.
Anyone or anything else? Just wondering.
For you and for your kids.
Obama can quite literally make people clap and command because he keeps using words that crowds have an immediate positive reaction to because of what they've been conditioned to think about them. Next, it's the word choice again.
While we're on the topic, women deserve to make their own healthcare choices, not politicians or insurance companies. And because of the Affordable Care Act, because of Obamacare, because of that law, no insurance company can deny you coverage or charge you more for the same care just because you're a woman. That's the right thing to do.
Anything to come across as a savior, I guess. And he makes sure to really emphasize the words that matter for his self-branding.
Just because you're a woman.
Like so many other speeches, this speech is about making people view themselves as members of a group first and foremost, not because they necessarily share the same opinions, goals and dreams, but simply because they happen to share the same innate characteristics. Next, we see this mindset on full display.
Let's encourage more women and more girls into fields like science and technology and engineering and math, and let's work with those companies to ensure that family-friendly policies can support more women in that workforce.
Family-friendly. So if people don't support his definition, they're family hostile. When people view themselves as members of a group first and foremost, it's easier for politicians to both upset and encourage them, and ultimately get their votes, which is what it's all about. And next, we see that to Obama it's actually not about or only about choice, the word he's monopolized in this speech.
But these are issues that are too important to hinge on whether or not your boss is enlightened. We've got to raise our voices to basically do away with policies and politicians that belong to in a Mad Men episode.
He makes presuppositions constantly, presuppositions that keep him from having to actually prove them. And when speakers don't define their presuppositions, they're engaging in covert argumentation. With the word enlightened, he's presupposing that people who don't support his policies are unenlightened. So implicitly, he's praising himself as one of the enlightened. Also, with a reference to Mad Men, he's oversimplifying and generalizing his opponent's unenlightened views, under the guise of wanting the best for all people. This is how politicians actually create a protagonist-antagonist framework, with no room for the antagonist. Obama's speech is all about being liked by women without telling them to like him. Other former presidents have revealed this agenda in less subtle ways.
And somebody said, "I don't know if the suburban woman likes you." They said, "They may not like the way you talk. Suburban women, they should like me more than anybody here tonight." I ended the regulation that brought crime to the suburbs. Suburban women, will you please like me? Remember? Please.
Feel free to click the like button and subscribe for more enlightening videos. Have a nice day.